Yeah, I think it's definitely a different angle, but the same topic. So therefore, I really enjoy it already here. So thank you very much for the invitation. And also the pre-event we had yesterday night, because much of my hypothesis and judgments on the current situations have been proven right yesterday in this very homogeneous group of people that we met. So obviously, when you called me and asked me to share something about learning and my learning journey, then I've been so bold and said, I will talk about my 10 must-have design criteria for a technology company. So I think it's a bold statement, but I say it's my. These are my 10 criteria. And why do I feel like I have something to say here? I start with the picture Professor Dollner already had in his presentation. This famous quote from Mark Andreessen, why software is eating the world. But I underlined the date. And this was 2011. Now it's 2022. And still, especially in that field of OEMs and tier ones, we are discussing a lot about the how. And what is the automotive OS, and how is this to be integrated with everything? What is the role of which player in this whole thing? But at least to my judgment, it's much too slow. We are not progressing at the speed that we are all dream of, and a lot of fellow campaigners here that also agree that certain things are really are blocking the progress that we all want to see. Why do I feel like I have something to say here? I spare you all the details of my former life as a IT and strategy consultant, but within Volkswagen Group for the last 8 to 10 years, I've been very much involved in different roles, trying to push digitization, digital business models, and so on, from different perspectives. That started with ramping up a digital business department, a business unit, where we tried to digitize sales and marketing. That's still very memorable. I conducted the first hackathon at Volkswagen Group in Boston at the MIT Media Lab with the attendance of board members, and that was really a very, very remarkable event, because afterwards all the board members came to me and said, "Oh, these are the bright guys, we need to hire them." And I told them they won't come. Why? And this was a little bit the start of the journey. Then I defined with my team the group mobility strategy in 2015, where everything was discussed already. So what do we need to own? What do we need to develop by our own value add? What is the contribution of which partner? What is the role of autonomous driving in the future mobility service, and so on? In consequence, I founded the first software and mobility company in the Volkswagen Group, which is called Moja, and was the CEO of this company for 3 years. Then I helped the establishment of Carriot for 8 to 10 months, really do a little bit the groundwork of setting up the company scheme, the technical things that you need to define, role split between brands and the software company, and so on. And then in 2020, I took over as CEO of VAIVA. I renamed the company. The former name was Automotive Safety Technologies. It's a majority shareholding of Volkswagen Group concerned with autonomous driving and assisted driving functions and active and passive secondary safety. That in a nutshell, the learning essence, as you see, comes from different angles, from business units, from projects, from companies that I founded, or now in the case of VAIVA, restructured. And I'm totally convinced that what I will present you here, I am convinced that this is absolutely fundamental and necessary. For me, these 10 criteria, and certainly there are many, many more, but these 10 criteria are also important to instigate the culture and the environment that one need to develop a successful technology company. And that's the first one. So we discussed this already yesterday evening. And the whole thing, when we talk about transformation and everything, I think it's important to start with realistic objectives. Yeah? And I just put 4 examples for well-known players here and how long they are already in the market. And what they did since then, they developed the first approaches, they throw them away, they learn from all the failures. And when we today discuss to have our own system on a chip, our own chip design, then one should take into account that Tesla, for example, never started that way. They started with a board chip, and then throughout the learning process, they decided, okay, it would be smart if we would go deeper there. So therefore, I think this one should definitely not underestimate there is no shortcut for learning. If you want to build something similar to somebody who is already that long in the market, then you really need to do things differently. Also, I'm totally convinced about focus. What I see in the automotive industry, both on OEM and also tier 1 side, is that there's certain different things that are all pursued at the same time. And I think this is also a recipe for failure. Teams need to be focused, companies need to be focused, and finally a follower strategy. The famous example of, what is Tesla doing? How can we do this? I think this is not promising. It can never be promising because you could never catch up. You could rather take the learning and then apply it to your own customer base, to your own strengths, and develop their own software-defined strategy. And then we come to the next thing, also something that we discussed before in the hall, discussing the business model first. I hear a lot of discussions around certain technology, concept, platforms, and so on. But there is a simple question in the end: how would we earn money with that? Who is the customer? Who is buying our services? And why? And how? Yeah, so what is the scheme? Is this a license model? Is that pay per use or whatever? And what we already at Moya back then established, and I think I'm totally convinced that this is a good way, is we look into every decision we take through the eyes of an imaginary investor. How would an investor judge our things? If we, for example, try to buy a company, hire certain people, would an investor really say, yes, this is a good decision or not? And this we all know from our traditional lives in our industry, continuous optimization from day one. Every day trying to becoming faster, leaner, and better, and I come to this in a second, what this would mean. But this is a very interesting point for me, and one of the key things in the whole discussion around automotive technology, software-driven vehicles, and so on, to define the right level of make or buy. Yeah, make or buy decisions, and for me it's a very basic rule. You need to have really strong arguments to try to build something up from scratch if there's already a solution available in the market. So there needs to be strong arguments. There can be strong arguments. Yeah? For example, continuity. We all know this in our industry. Software development that spans different vehicle generations. That's of utmost importance if you really want to reduce the risk in the development process and secure the learning and so on. So that's all true. To have like one component, we are building functions and systems for safety, for example, and if you see one version in platform or in the vehicle generation, one is built by Bosch and the other one by Conti, then you start always from scratch. Yeah? And you do not have this generation spanning learning. So that could be one argument to start to make it by yourself. But you also need to take into account things like speed, yeah, and how fast do you want to go to the market. Nevertheless, it's also important to look into cohesion. So does it fit into your tool chains and processes and so on? So it's really complex, but what I see, my feeling is that these make or buy decisions currently are not really conducted in a thought-through way as they should. Yeah? And for me, and this is also what I tell my guys in our company always, industrialized solutions already incorporate learning from several years. So really think twice, Do we need to build this ourselves, or can we had this discussion yesterday, can we buy the module from the market? I'm not sure if you know Simon Sinek, I think well known and sometimes a little bit over the top a coach for change and everything. But I really like this quote from him, playing the infinite game. And I think this is really also something that I learned in my past, and I'm totally convinced today. There is no, we want to become the first in software, the best in software in 2 or 3 years, the biggest, the nicest, most beautiful. This is all nonsense, yeah, because you cannot say what will you have achieved in 3 years. It's not like the complicated audit business in the past. It's the complex business. So you can follow certain routes, and you can build the fundamentals to stay in the game, to remain a successful player on the long haul. But to say we will be the first in ADAS, in autonomous driving level 4, blah, blah. I think this is all nonsense. And this we all learned throughout the last years, that it's very hard to predict. In 2016, everybody in our organization thought autonomous driving is right around the corner, 2019, 2020. So I think we all know better now. But it's about to come. It will fundamentally change our industry. And in order to be in the game also in a couple of years, it's important to engage, even though the business case is potentially fully clear yet. And then another thing, and this is also something that I saw in our industry a lot of times, and I think this is something that we need to improve. We need to stick to a path once we've chosen it. Yeah, to change directions, to always discuss different partnerships, different depth level of value add and so on. This is only confusing the team. This leads to inconsistent learning cycles and so on. And anyhow, it will get bumpy, and nobody knows how the future exactly will look like. Lean structures is another thing, especially coming from a corporate background. Yeah, we all know these very detailed organization schemes with strategy department, innovation departments, and all this kind of stuff. My learning, and I'm 100% rigid here, when setting up a new company, when setting up a technology company, you need nothing of this. Yeah, it's all consuming time, precious time. It's all discussions that are not focused on product and technology. It's for some reason there, and it deteriorates the focus. So therefore, lean structures, and we are really religious on that. So a very small overhead only, and all the knowledge is anyhow with the experts. It's with the experts. They know best which tool chain to use, which coding language to use. And therefore, what I learned and what I think is really crucial, to focus always on team productivity and constantly look to get rid of the bullshit. Yeah. So we, for example, we implemented a focus day. On Wednesday, there are no meetings in the whole company. We ask ourselves any given day, so was that really helpful? Was this concept necessary? And if not, we throw it away. Yeah. And this is true for structures, for processes, and everything. That leads to the next point, continuous improvement. Also that, I sometimes feel that we are going on a certain journey, and then, yeah, we see we are occupied in committees discussing platform strategies back and forth and here. But the question, are we really on track? I think this is a question that needs to be asked every month at least, and we do this. Yeah, monthly forecast, retrospectives on regular terms, to really question ourselves, do we all need this? Do we need these internal programs, these agile transformation thing? Do we need really to introduce a agile development model like SAFe or something like? Do we really need that? Does this really help us to progress? And if not, then please just get rid of it. Yeah? And this is already a learning from Moya back then. rigid reduction of interfaces in day-to-day business. What's so common in our industry, and I think this is the same thing in tier ones as in OEMs, these needs for alignments. Ask somebody to agree or disagree or give the budget or so. This is all waste of time, and we need to be in a situation where we really can empower the right experts to take decisions. I said a sworn and diverse leadership team is also crucial, and this is also something that can be seen in our industry. Leadership roles often are coming from a classical, like, engineering background or change on regular terms. But this thing that we are all concerned with, this is kind of like the moonshot. This is a long journey, and therefore it's absolutely crucial to have a leadership team that is able to steer a company in the right direction. When I look into diverse, then I do not only mean gender equality and so on, which should be there anyhow, but to have diverse backgrounds that are relevant. So if you work in a technology company in a leadership position, then I'm totally believe there is the need that you worked in a technology company before. That you learned the culture before, that you saw it somewhere, and therefore true believers, passionists are extremely important, and to really be in the game, not for a next career step. Oh, I do know this digital thing 2-3 years, and then I can become board member here and there. I think this is potentially not the right approach. Building on that, also something that I cannot emphasize often enough. I totally believe, and again, it's my learnings, but I'm totally convinced about that, it's an expert game. It's only an expert game, and we're doing everything. We just had an offsite for 2 days to instigate this expert culture in our company. For example, we introduce new career paths in our company that allows technical staff to progress in their career without becoming a manager or have these kind of social responsibilities and all this kind of stuff, but really like to be able to evolve as an expert. And there's always this quote, hire for attitude, train for skill. Basically, I think it's not so wrong, but skill is first. So the attitude must be there. You cannot have people with skill but without attitude. But I think, especially in our industry, skills are really important. And also tech company ambition. I mean, we deal with a lot of uncertainty, insecurity, and so on. And if that really is bothering you, then potentially it's not so much the right environment to work in. And the other thing I know, that this is really provocative, because there are certainly OEMs, tier ones in this room here, but I'm totally convinced all these thousands and hundreds of engineers that are always announced in the press and that everybody's looking for, they do not exist. I'm totally convinced about that. And it's also not an important KPI. It's about the best, not the most. And therefore, this is what we are also looking for. Really try to find the best, try to convince them. But this waste amount of people, I think it's rather not supportive, because organizations become too large too fast, and this is more often than not a problem. Since 2 months, we have the first VAIVA, we have the first active sourcing responsible in our scheme. So for the first time, we do active sourcing, because we learned that none of our talents that we look for will ever look for a job post or whatever. That's common knowledge here. But I talked to my active sourcing lady last week, and I asked her, Evelyn, is it true that 30% of the guys that you approach are willing to engage with you? And she said, no, it's 50 to 60. Well, so, and even these guys that stayed in their LinkedIn profile, please do not call me, even though these guys are approachable. So and then I said, okay, it's about the money. No, it's not so much about the money. Money is a hygiene factor. What's definitely not important is all these fancy stuff, company merchandising, nice office locations in times and age of remote work. Anyhow, not as important anymore. It's nice, but it's not decisive. What is decisive? What are the reasons why people want to or consider a job change? Career development, yeah, appraisal, and this is also what I learned throughout the years, performance culture. Really to instigate a performance culture where you have a differentiated value or valuing of the performance. So if somebody is really great, he can go through the stages, career stages in 9 months in our organization. There's no problem. And some people wonder, oh, I wait 3 years for a promotion and he just made it in 9 months. Yeah, because he's better. And this kind of differentiation and acknowledgement, I think, is extremely important. And also for the future in our industry, I think it's really hard. I established at Moja, I think, the first ESOP program in the Volkswagen Group. Employee stock option program was a huge like cultural thing to get this on the road. I know that we as an industry are really like with some reservation looking into the thing, but something like that, long-term incentive, employee stock options are required to make people like participating in company success. Now, this is my last slide, but it's also a very interesting point for me and also in our industry, and we discussed this very intensively also yesterday night. Honest communication. Say what you do what you say, and rather do a little bit the underselling part. I also learned in this regard, and then overachieve. But what we see today is a huge mismatch between external communication, it's all great, it's agile transformation and the best working environment, what you see. And I feel that, and this is not only true for one particular company, that's potentially for most in our industry, because it's kind of employer marketing, it's not reflecting the day-to-day reality. And if communication is not reflecting day-to-day communication, day-to-day reality, you lose the trust and the engagement of your team because they say, hi, this is not our company, what you are presenting to the outside. So therefore, I really urge to be very stakeholder-specific, target group-specific, and do it in the right way. Yeah. So this was a very brief run through the 10 most important design criteria for me. Certainly there are many more, and we can also discuss technology and so on, but I think if this is not given, if this is not the environment we are working in, then all these nice ideas will not becoming reality, at least not fast enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ola Harms, CIO of VAIVA.